People who have been in a coma, what was it like? Do you dream? Does it feel like you've been asleep for a long time?
My dad has described his 2-month coma after his car accident. He said he could hear bits and pieces of what was happening around him, but it was like a dream that he couldn't wake up from. When my 2 siblings and I would come in and talk to him, his heart rate would go down. When his friends had come to sit with him and watch a football game, the nurses made them turn it off because his team started losing and his heart rate blew up.
A good friend of mine was in an accident this past summer and ended up in a coma for about 2 weeks. He said the only thing he really remembers is dreaming he was walking around in the dark. After walking for a few minutes, he saw his eyelids as if he were inside his own head. As he approached them, they opened, and that's when he woke up.
I was in a coma for 6 weeks with double pneumonia, sepsis and kidney failure. I have very few vivid memories from being under but had some very strange visions once I woke due to the amount of drugs I was pumped full of. I had no concept of time and thought I had only been out for a day or so.
It was only a few days in a medically induced coma, but I just remember it being dark, short blips of family being in the room, and when the doctor first tried telling me where I was and asking me if I knew my name, I was tempted to answer it as Britney Spears. But I didn't want my parents freaking out.
My so was in a coma-like state for a week or so. There was a distinct point where I was holding his hand talking to him that he had a tear roll down his face. You could tell from the EEG that there was a lot going on in his brain. Months later, when we were talking about what he missed in the hospital, he said he had a dream he could hear me talking to him and was so frustrated that he couldn't seem to respond that he started crying. It broke my heart to tell him it wasn't a dream.
I was in a diabetic coma for 2 days. No dreams, no nothing, just out. When I slowly woke up, I had some kind of mild, minor amnesia. I didn't know where I was, or who I was, but I recognized my mom immediately when I saw her. TMI, but the doctors were just about to put in a catheter when I woke up, then I peed for like 2 minutes straight. The nurse was impressed.
My boyfriend was in a coma for 3 days. We sat with him and talked to him the whole time. He doesn't remember any of it. When he woke up, he didn't know who I was, but he recognized his mother. He hallucinated for several days after that. He thought we were in a spaceship. I asked if there was a Wookiee aboard and he said yes. You?
I was in a coma for over 3 days, but was in the hospital for over 2 months. The doctors were trying different procedures for my brain to kickstart the short-term memory. I literally couldn't remember anything. I would routinely reintroduce myself to nurses, not remembering them from a few minutes prior. I would start a conversation, only to forget what I was saying mid-sentence, and just stop talking. It was so frustrating. I don't remember anything from that time, but I remember how I felt about certain situations when they are brought up by others. As an example, a person who I'm no longer with, yelled at me, with nurses present, and was banned from visiting. I don't remember that exchange, but I remember feeling extremely hurt and sad, but don't know why. When I was speaking with a relative, she brought up the yelling situation and the feelings came flooding back, but not what was said or who was there. I'm getting better and I'm able to retain new memories, overall, just not during any extremely stressful moments. My brain protects itself and stops recording when I find myself in a stressful situation. It's really not fun and can be truly challenging.
I was in a coma when I was a kid. Apparently I was in it for a while, like 6 months. When I woke up I found out they made a TV show about it and the experiences I went through. Check it out.
I had a C-section and woke up 4 days later in ICU. Amniotic fluid leaked into my lungs during the C-section. I also lost a lot of blood and needed 3 blood transfusions. I was only in a coma for 4 days. It was black, no dreams, no time passing. My memories of before the coma don't have a timeline nor make any sense. To me it happened in surgery. I was fully awake and started getting tired and then black. Family says it happened differently, that it was after and had visitors for those days. I don't remember any of those days at all. I still have issues with short-term memory.
I was in a diabetic coma and don't remember any of it and most of the bit before. I just remember waking up feeling amazing, morphine, and 0 pain, which was lovely.
My brother was in a coma for 2 weeks following his TBI. It's not like how Hollywood displays it. When you wake from it, it's a slow process of murmuring and confusion.
My first wife, at 18, before I met her, had a cardiac arrest in a swimming pool and drowned. Fortunately for her, there was a CPR class going on right next door, so help was there immediately. She was 2 weeks in a coma, and at first wasn't expected to survive, then was expected to have suffered severe brain damage. Instead, she survived, returned to college 6 months later, and finished her 4-year degree in 3 years. Later married me, had 2 kids, published a book, and, practically single-handedly, opened a charter school before her heart finally gave out at age 43. Long introduction, sorry. She told me that during the coma she had strange dreams, that later she realized were real things happening to her. For example, people in scuba gear hovering around her, the surgeons when they implanted her pacemaker. A little girl trying to push her out of bed, nurses trying to change the bed. There were some other stories I no longer remember.
I read here some time ago about a dude who had an accident and banged his head pretty bad, but managed to turn his life around, found his forever soulmate and started a loving, happy family. Some years pass. Then he freaked out one day when he finally figured out that there was something wrong somehow with the lamp at his bedside, and that it didn't exist. The world literally started to collapse around him and he finally woke up from the coma his head injury had induced, alone, without ever having actually met his soulmate or started that family. He had imagined it all. He described such profound sadness that I still remember that answer to pretty much that same question.
My husband was placed in an induced coma following a motorcycle accident. He said it was like time stopped in his mind, and he was stuck in a loop of the accident. He was conscious and remembers when he was loaded onto the flying doctor's plane at the scene of the accident, but he doesn't remember arriving at the hospital.
I was out for 6 weeks due to a brain virus. I wasn't expected to survive. I had no concept of how long I was out when I woke, and the first couple of days are very sketchy. I don't remember any dreams, but I do have memories of what happened in the room around me. So I can confirm that it is very important to talk to people in a coma.
The singer of Anal Beep wrote a song called You're in a Coma, which ridiculed people in comas. He later overdosed, went into a coma, and came out of it, stating in an interview that being in a coma was just as beep stupid as I said it was.
My stepdad was in an accident and was in a coma for just over a month, or just under 2 months, and he doesn't remember any of it. Keep in mind that he had a brain injury, so I'm sure that changed things. However, there was a History Channel documentary playing for weeks on end in his room since he loved history, and when he came out of the coma he thought that he had lived through the documentary, not during the coma time, but as if it was an old memory. He kept telling people about it, and even said, "My mother's name keeps saying it didn't happen, but I was his chef. I remember it." No, it didn't matter to him that he actually had never known how to cook anything outside of a microwave.
I don't remember any dreams. I also don't remember removing my IV needle twice. Serious car accident when I was 9. My father sat in a rocking chair for 3 days waiting for me to open my eyes. When I did, I asked about a new friend my father didn't know. She was in the car. He thought I'd lost it for sure.
Not a coma, but sort of related. I once sat up after giving blood and passed out onto the floor, breaking my nose and chipping a tooth. I had a long, involved dream with many people and storylines. When I came to, I didn't believe the nurse when she told me I was only out for a second or two. I don't give blood anymore.
I OD'd on sedatives. I woke up from a 2-hour nap and then found out it had actually been 2 days. I didn't process time at all.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.